Anyone to the left of Ted Cruz has probably been very angry with me this entire time for suggesting that cities should have borders they can stop people from crossing. How dare I spit on the concept of multiculturalism so? Our diversity is our strength. Yes, it is. Diversity is absolutely vital to our survival, and it enriches all our lives on a daily basis. In agriculture, we frequently encounter the problem that successful cultivars crowd out other varieties of a crop. The dominant cultivar then turns out to be vulnerable to some new or imported blight, and suddenly that crop doesn't exist anymore. Monocultures are just bananas. I absolutely want to protect diversity from multiculturalism. I do not oppose multiculturalism. I claim that it's an oxymoron. If we had no borders and humanity were just one big happy family, that's a monoculture. If you want to know the relationship between multiculturalism and diversity, go ask all the people in other countries who watch their culture dissolve into the Coca-Cola we dumped on them. A multicultural city invariably segregates itself to some degree, and could never exist in the first place outside of an empire. To install multiculturalism as a national value is to embrace dominion over others, and worse, to open oneself to the possibility of submission to a different empire. Cultural exchange is one of the best things about life. It's also meaningless if there's only one culture. Individuals can be multicultural. They may have mixed parents, they may travel to many different places, and they may develop an eclectic style that lets them glide between the different places they call home. Societies cannot be. The most succinct definition of culture is what society is doing here. More than one of those cannot exist in the same place at the same time. Try to do that, and they just become one. Settlements must have the right to engage in cultural exchange, or not, however they see fit. And most communities will opt to protect something about their way of life from outside influence. The civil network grants that liberty without sacrificing the benefits of large-scale collaboration. The most fundamental freedom of all is the freedom to leave. If you don't want to participate in what's going on around you, there are few circumstances where you shouldn't be able to just walk away. Unfortunately, our present society affords no place to flee to for most people. From sea to shining sea, we have essentially the same legal system with only a few variables from one state to the next regarding what you can buy and who you can see naked. The rest of the world is in a similar situation. All of the great powers devote themselves to expanding their influence as much as possible, and since each of them really just offers a different brand of fascism packaged as a more popular ideology, many ways of life are facing global extermination. This is before considering the fact that you have to be able to afford to travel, which is pretty difficult if you're such an unpopular person that the law is against you. The gatehouses are my answer to these issues, and the defining element of the civil network. A gatehouse is the physical and legal interface between a client polity and the outside world. All at once, it is an embassy, a hospital, a hotel, a library, and a prison. It is internally secure the way a prison is because it houses people who likely aren't allowed into the city without specific vetting. Criminals, undocumented travelers, immigrants from distant cultures, and, most importantly, protectorate officials. It differs from a prison in its core mission, to allow people to network to found new settlements with principles they agree upon. A gatehouse shouldn't be uncomfortable for anyone in it, and anyone is free to leave at any time. They just can't enter the host city. Residents may also request transfer to any other gatehouse. To ensure that gatehouses treat residents well, all protectorate officials will be required to live in them, with the exception of the House of Leaders. They'll be assigned to a random gatehouse where they speak the language every 2 years, with the exception of the House of Delegates, who need to remain in close contact with their hometown. The Random House receives no such exemption, as familiarity with the outside world is necessary for a lawmaker, and there will likely be many communities where citizens remain as disconnected from it as possible. In addition, protectorate officials should be shuffled into a randomly chosen room of their hosting gatehouse every 3 months to ensure that they aren't hiding all the people who hate the place. A gatehouse's services are all free of charge and available to every resident. Residents are able to buy anything they normally would, provided they can get it delivered. They are allowed any visitors who would like to see them. If people are not regularly voluntarily sheltering at a gatehouse to find a city with laws they wouldn't want to break, rather than breaking the laws that would get them banished to one, conditions need improving. The trade cities managing regional gatehouses should consider their work successful if it is normal to lodge at their gatehouses just for the free train tickets and open internet. While criminals may be assigned work as part of restitutive or rehabilitative contracts, receipt of services and the right to leave are not contingent upon fulfillment of those contracts. In a civilization with an escape hatch, a criminal is just somebody who needs to go somewhere else where they make the laws. No affordance is made in the civil network for punitive justice because we shouldn't be doing it. It's wrong. Mankind is not truly fit to administer justice. If a deity or inscrutable natural force is not responsible for it, it doesn't exist. Our attempts at it are brutish attacks on the soul that we should all be embarrassed to have tolerated for so long. True rehabilitation in a punitive system is impossible, as it robs the prisoner of their humanity. We hold on to these practices because they assuage our tribal anger, but deep down, we all know that something about it is wrong. This is why almost every family harbors at least one criminal. We know that our boy is not like that. He did what he did for different reasons, and he needs help. He's not evil. Every kid is your kid, because you never know how your kid will fail to fit in. Trying to teach them to be somebody other than themselves just teaches them to hide the problem. Society needs a clearly labeled exit.